this is a part of our study with three professors from the university, from different universities and different schools, because I'm coming from the University of Navarra, it's a fashion business school. Juan Carlos Real comes from the School of Economics from the University Pablo de Olavide, and Ignacio comes from the School of Economics, but from the University of Sevilla. So we did this research in order to understand which are the most important drivers of the most important drivers for green supply management practices. And green supply chain management has become an innovative strategy for many companies, and it takes a way to compete within their industry as well as in academia. And this has become a thriving field of research over the past few years. The textile fashion industry is experiencing significant problems related to the production processes, characterized by intensive use of energy, toxic chemicals, natural resources, and sustainability is becoming not only a trend and not only a dream, but is the pure reality in most of the companies. So the problem is how to tackle all these challenges coming from the system of production. And this is why the textile industry has been identified by the European Union in the new Circular Economy Action Plan from the European Commission as one of the 7 key value chains that requires urgent measures and actions to move towards a more sustainable production and consumption. The problem of the climate change and the pressures from government regulations, company moving to more environmentally friendly practices, have led us to these kind of companies that are moving from trying to control pollution to preventive approaches, to adopt new preventive approaches. So this is the set of measures that the European Commission have been launching in these last few years. As you can see, from December 2015 until 2022, they have launched a lot of measures related to circular economy and, of course, about textiles. I have highlighted here only the most interesting related to fashion and textiles, launched on the 30th of March. This new strategy for sustainable and circular textiles and the Sustainable Products Initiative, and the proposal for the eco-design for sustainable products regulations, and of course a lot of new initiatives that are now under the process of writing about the legislative proposal for substantiating green claims made by companies and many others. So we are in the middle of an important regulation framework that is going to put a lot of pressures on companies. In this context, it was the recent textiles and circular economy action plan regulation in Europe that is focusing on 7 key value chains. Of course, one of them is textiles, but also construction, buildings, food, many others. So in this context, we did a research to find out which are the main drivers of environmental sustainability practices in fashion textile sector in Spain. And more in depth, if regulatory requirements that have been identified in the academic literature as important drivers for green supply chain management practices are direct, antecedent, or not of these practices in fashion industry. So this was the research question was this, and it was a part of a bigger project. A bigger project in which we tried to find out how many drivers were important and how they affected the different practices. So green supply chain practices are defined in different ways. It's a very broad concept, and one of the most important definitions are this. It means integrating environmental thinking into supply chain management, including product design, material sourcing, selection, manufacturing processes, many of them. And these internal practices have been classified sometimes for different authors in practices of process and practices of product. Being the practices of process, green production, green logistics, and internal environmental management, and being the practices of product, mainly eco-design and green packaging. And regarding the drivers, the literature, the academic literature, always, well, not always, but has done these classifications according to the responsibility or the source motivation. So there are internal and external drivers, and one of them is the regulatory requirements, the environmental awareness, the external pressures from stakeholders, or the internal motivations. So for this research, we are going to focus on these regulatory requirements and only affecting the internal practices of green supply chain management. As I have said before, this is a part of a bigger study in which we studied all the drivers, all the practices, and of course, which was the performance in terms of economic and financial, and in terms of environmental performance too. So to do this study, we take this sample. So we did a survey-based research methodology. And to delimit our population, we used a financial analysis database of the main Spanish companies related to textiles and fashion. So we looked for all the classification of activities related to textiles, manufacturing of textile products, preparation and spinning of textile fibers, manufacturing of clothing apparel, and of course, downstream also wholesale trade of textile products, wholesale trade of clothing and footwear. And this is the results. So our database was about 2,805 companies with at least 10 workers in Spain in this sector. And we obtained, after sending them many questionnaires, we obtained a total of 166 responses. The idea was that to understand the green practices, we needed to contact the environmental sustainability manager or the quality manager or supply chain manager, because only this position has the whole view of the business. So we contacted them and we obtained the responses. As you can see, the firm size is we mainly contacted small companies and only 2 big companies. This is not, it is coherent with the number of small and medium companies in Europe that normally there is a proportion about 98% of small companies in Europe. So this is more or less our proportion. But maybe it doesn't reflect which is the situation in Spain, because we have very, very strong and very big brands like the Inditex Group or Mango Group or Tendam or the Sigual, many brands. So, and the methodology was to use these questionnaires with a scales, Likert scale from 1 to 7, and a lot of items for asking questions related to the drivers, internal practices, economic and environmental performance. And we did this survey between September and October 2021. We started then, and we then analyzed all the results. And our hypotheses were this: regulatory requirements are positive influence the adoption of internal GSCM process practices and product practices. And we obtained these results. And we analyzed with a PLS software, and the results that we obtained were that these regulatory requirements are not influencing the practices, the green supply chain practices, nor in product and nor in processes, as you can see here in the graphic, in the table, sorry. So the hypotheses are not supported. So these two hypotheses we have done, collecting the details, collecting the answers from the results, this way we say that they are not supported. And why can be this? So this is the discussion and conclusion. So for us, it was a bit surprising. And well, we don't know exactly, but these requirements do not act as facilitators, although there are recent regulations in this direction in Spain. We have regulations about waste, regulations about the circular economy, and of course, textile is considered one of the key value chains, the same like in the Green Deal. And well, we see in this situation that it's a great opportunity for public managers to stimulate environmental awareness at companies. Maybe until now, they have been not important. Maybe because even if they were regulations, they were not mandatory. In some cases, they were like a path to follow, like recommendations, but not strictly, strictly mandatory. Another consequence, well, is that we have seen that society's interest in sustainability is driving companies to change the practices, and not on the contrary. So our consumers, society, who are leading the change. It's also a great opportunity for cooperations amongst companies for eco-design products and green packaging. Of course, when we did this research, it was before the launching of the textile framework and the textile strategy in Europe. So now it would be mandatory from the next years, this kind of eco-design, of course, all the things related to packaging. It's also a new opportunity for governments, universities, and training centers to give more training to the students, to the designers, because the framework has changed. So if until now, in these companies we have analyzed, many of them were like companies focused on treatment, they were manufacturing yarns, fibers, and also small companies focused on small parts of the shoes or whatever. But also there were some brands specialized in children, specialized in different companies. But this is a new opportunity for governments, universities to train all these people. So not governments, but universities and training centers to focus on this. And we saw also that although the most innovative companies are advanced, so they have done a lot of effort to apply new processes more focused on sustainability. Many small companies do not start to change until they are forced to do it for regulations. And it was also, as we were asking them, it was also a question of budget, because at some point to do the transformation of their machines in order to incorporate new kinds of recycled products or whatever, needs a lot of investment. Of course, they need money to do this transformation. We think also this discussion, these results were in part because in our sample, many of the companies were small, and more of them were downstream, when the operations that have more impact are always not always, but normally they are upstream in the value chain. And We think this study was like an exploratory study, and this was a part of a bigger one. But we think that it will be very interesting to repeat this study in a few years, not only in Spain, but in other countries, maybe in other countries in Europe, other countries in the Mediterranean Sea, when the new EU strategy for sustainable and circular textiles and the new framework for eco-design and other packaging initiatives is transposed to the countries. So probably we will see a shift from this situation now to the one that is proposed. Because this strategy, the EU strategy, sets a package of measures including many actions and practices, eco-design, packaging, extended producer responsibility, among others, that may change the panorama. So we think that the situation will be completely different in some years. Well, this is all. Thank you so much.